I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis when I was 16. There were many symptoms to show that something was wrong. Over a series of months, there was just different things that would pop up. Sometimes I was playing netball and I couldn't raise my arm. Then the next week I would be very sore and stiff in my wrist with a lot of pain. And it sort of got to the point where I was playing netball, took a bit of a knock on my finger, shook it out, kept playing, and then a week later it just swelled up, and that's not really the normal trajectory of the swelling. It didn't go down and the physios didn't really know what was wrong. And then it got to the point of the June long weekend where I couldn't get out of bed and I was sleeping in my clothes for 3 days straight, and walked into the GP and he sort of just took my history and said a young female with presenting of joint soreness and stiffness, I'd suggest it's rheumatoid arthritis. And I just laughed at him and said, I play netball 5 times a week, how can it be rheumatoid arthritis? But sure enough, a blood test came back and that's what it was. Probably the hardest thing for me to deal with was that it's a chronic illness, so the body is fighting itself, doesn't recognise the lining, the synovial fluid, it attacks that. So that was a real mental struggle, that it was me causing this pain. And it really affects everything in your life, like all the day-to-day activities. I don't think you realise how often you use your hands until you have soreness in your hands. So say from things like squeezing a shampoo bottle and toothpaste, really painful, to getting stuck in your car because you can't press the seatbelt because your thumbs are so sore, or it's raining outside and all you want to do is get home and walk in the door but you can't actually physically turn the keys. Yeah, they're pretty tricky to deal with day to day, but also more than that, just in terms of all your relationships, like even with your friends, when you're not feeling very well, you can find yourself sitting on the couch screening their phone calls. And then like with my partner, my boyfriend, who's very supportive, I just don't feel like I can give back to the relationship in total. Like just chopping, like in terms of cooking, that's very difficult. One of the hardest things domestically is making a bed. The wrists get very sore with tucking in. Yeah, probably the most confronting thing for me in my experience and journey with rheumatoid arthritis, that will always stay with me, was sitting at the Women's and Children's Hospital in the rheumatology section waiting to see my rheumatologist. There was this 3-year-old girl playing with the toys in the waiting room and climbing over the chairs, and she just stopped and looked up at her dad with total innocence and said, "Daddy, why do you want me to be healthy?" And that just really struck me, and it always will. Yeah, but personally, the most confronting thing for me was 2015. When I was first diagnosed, I just took it in my stride and didn't really think about the future and how it would impact on me. But 2015, I got pneumonia and found out I've got permanent joint damage in my right hand. And also the conversation was brought up with my rheumatologist about having kids and trying to do that within the next year, and otherwise trying to think about surrogacy. So that was quite full on to find out, and yeah, it just shows how impacting it is going to be on the future. In terms of managing flare-ups, I really find rest to be of most benefit. So if I'm really bad, I will take the day off work and stay at home and sleep on the couch, but also try and get out for a walk and just stretch and loosen up, feel so much better. If I'm having a bit of a slow morning, I'll just call into work and say that I'm struggling and get in late, and try not to rush myself either, and just pace myself and learn not to feel guilty about how you're feeling. And it's okay to take time, which is probably the biggest lesson I've learnt through rheumatoid, that you do, you have to learn to let go and manage your work-life balance, and when you learn that your health is wealth, it's one of the greatest lessons of life I can think of.
Hi, I'm Annie, and I'm here to talk about rheumatoid arthritis, which is a silly disease, I reckon. As a mum of a daughter who got it, I think in year 11, it was very hard for us to put our finger on the pulse exactly as to what it was. And our doctor tried to test for this and that and something else, and it was a long weekend, I think in June, when we ended up going to another 24-hour clinic, and the doctor there, he was able to put his finger on the pulse straight away. He tested for RA, rheumatoid arthritis, and that's what it was. And at that stage, Diane was just, she went from being an absolutely fabulous athlete athlete and a very good musician, to not really being able to do much in life at all. And I just remember her walking as about a 99-year-old granny, and I do get sad because it was such a disability for this really fit person to be not able to do what she wanted to do. And I do apologise for my sadness. However, life gets better, and in no time, I suppose, because of medication, when we, in between going to that 24-hour clinic and going to the children's hospital, Diane was given prednisolone, which is a wonder drug, and she just went home and slept for 6 hours. And I still remember when she came out and she said, "Oh, I can walk," and it was so fabulous. She went from being this 99-year-old lady to this fantastic teenager with a beautiful smile. And I'll never forget that day, because it was just fabulous for her to be able to walk. From there on, she progressed, and with the help of medication, it's amazing. It gives you the shits. You don't like taking it. The effects of it are probably almost sometimes as bad as the disease, but yeah, it does work. And so thanks to medication, we're very grateful that we have the lifestyle that we have today. And then at the end of 2004, I went on a holiday to Malaysia, where I came back from Malaysia with pneumonia, which for me wasn't a really unusual event. But I do remember that when I had pneumonia previously, I also was walking like a real old lady. And I'm thinking, well, this is weird. I've just got a chest infection. Why can't I walk? And so the next time I got pneumonia, that's when I was diagnosed with arthritis. And so rheumatoid, that was at the end of 2004. And that was such a stupid time. Like, it's such a debilitating disease. But once again, thanks to medication, you get pretty good in life. And I remember at the time that I got it, that just little things like trying to walk was one of the hardest things you do. Trying to sleep was so difficult. It was summer, being December. You couldn't pull up a sheet. You just couldn't do the most simplest things. I was at work prior to that, and I was just trying to fold letters, and I kept on looking at my hands thinking, why can't I fold letters? Tried to use a stapler, things that you could normally do. You'd go to pay for things at the shop, but no way could you get money out of your purse. You just hand over your purse and hope people were honest. So yes, when I was first diagnosed, when I was really finding it tough to walk and I couldn't pull up sheets at night or things like that, I used to go to bed with the tongs, and then I could leverage the sheet with the tongs and pull them up that way. So you just find ways of managing and getting on with it. But Paul would come home at lunchtime, and I'd be in bed because I didn't want him to see, Paul being our son, I didn't want him to see how I was. And he'd say, "Come on, you're never going to get better lying in bed." And I'm thinking, well, I'm not going to let you see what I'm really like. And fortunately, Diane was overseas at that time, so she didn't have to see how I was. So that was good. And so I started off with the early arthritis clinic at the RAH, which I still go to today, 11 years later. And although the medication you hate taking, I have protocol violation on my file at the RAH because they're not always happy with the way I take my medication, because some of it is just the pits and you feel so dreadful. You think, oh God, I don't know which is worse. But the pain is amazing and you just get to live with pain. So we're just so thankful and proud of Chris Barry for organising this ride to raise funds for rheumatoid arthritis. Yeah, I think it's a really fantastic thing that he's taken on, and I just hope that it works really well. And to anyone who's able to give, no matter how little, how much, we're very grateful for that. So thank you for Chris and all the boys who are doing this ride. We're really grateful, and I hope that you get a lot of pleasure out of it, and it'll be so good to find a cure for it. But even if you don't, you just know that stupid drugs do work and it does help the pain and all those sorts of things. So thank you for the opportunity to talk about RA.
A goal that I've set myself this year is to exercise more, because I have honestly found it so beneficial after going for a bike ride, just how great I feel. So I'm really looking forward to the challenge of this ride. In terms of the fundraising as well, just looking forward to seeing where the money goes towards in research, but also the bike riding, raising awareness of arthritis and trying to get the story out that it's not only an old person's illness.